pinaagi sa Google Play ug Apple Store, YouTube ug Twitter. Alang sa mas kipakusgan nga mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran ug kalingawan. DXDX Size 93, ang mas kipakusgan nga inyong Radyo Ronda.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
In every crisis, there are struggles and there are silver linings. While this pandemic has quite a number of negatives, many are looking for upsides such as learnings and a true appreciation of the things that matter most. Today, we'll look at the impact of this pandemic, especially in the growth and development of our children. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care comes first. Children aren't the worst hit by the virus, but they risk being among the biggest victims of the pandemic. To talk more about this, let's welcome our guests. With us is Dr. Catherine Baltazar Braganza. She's a neurodevelopmental pediatrician from UST Hospital. Also joining us is Ms. Suzalyn Pascual. She's the president of the Philippine Association of Speech Pathologists. Thank you both for joining us on this very important episode on MedTalk Health Talk today. Now, let's first talk about some of the developmental delays in children, specifically because the COVID-19 pandemic has caused young children to miss opportunities for developmental milestones. Now, I'll start first with Dr. Kat. Have you met patients who have seen some developmental delays that may be caused perhaps by this current situation, the pandemic?
I see a lot of patients in my clinic wherein the children are usually exposed to gadgets because the parents are also working at home, so they can't help but just give gadgets to their children. And also, I see a lot of children missing their social milestones because they don't get to go out, so they don't get to play with other children. So when they see other people, they get they would have anxiety.
Now let's talk about more developmental delays in general, which may happen when a child lags behind their peers in terms of emotional, mental, or even physical growth. Ms. Suzy, in what areas of development can children have these delays? Or anong mga what are the more common areas that parents may see these delays in their children?
Usually in all areas, actually. Like if a child has limited interaction with peers or even with adults, they may eventually have like difficulty with comprehension. And then with that comes also the difficulty with expression. So how can they be able to express something if they don't know it? Right. And then what Dr. Braganza mentioned a while ago was the social communication. Because of the limited exposure with other kids and their difficulty in having other people to interact with, that is also compromised.
I'll talk to Dr. Kat about that. So let's inform the parents who are watching or our viewers who are watching kung at what age ba dapat ang isang bata ay able to talk. Let's start first from what type of sounds they can utter to actual comprehensible speech.
It actually starts early on. So as early as 5 to 6 months, actually even younger, at 3 months, they would respond to social smiles. So when the parents smiles at them, they should be responding with a smile. And then about the same time, they would start to coo and be quieted when the parent would talk to them. So as they grow bigger, at 5 to 6 months, we expect babbling. So babbling is the production of consonant and vowels of ba, da, and then by 8 to 9 months, they would have repetitive babbling, like ba, 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 da, da, da. And by 11 months, they should be saying their first word.
Before we go on further with the discussion, I just would like to remind our viewers now all of these developmental milestones are assuming that the hearing of your child is normal as well, because there's a correlation with how normal the hearing of the child is and how quickly they can develop their speech. Now, moving on, I'd like to ask Ms. Susie, Dr. Kat mentioned a lot of milestones. Are there any activities that the parents watching can do to enhance this development process sa mga anak nila?
There are many ways of facilitating their language, the language skills of the child at home. But one thing that I usually teach the parents when I do webinars is to do the what we call language stimulation techniques. And one of those is commenting. Like when you're building the vocabulary of the child, you try to describe something. But when I say describe, it's not just yung parang robotic na nagsasalita ka lang like a newscaster. No, it's not reporting, but it's more of putting it into context in such a way that the child will get interested with the concepts or with the words that you're teaching them.
At a certain age, usually by the time a child is ready to go to school, he or she should have already reached some social as well as emotional development milestones, like playing with others, singing, as well as dancing. But many kids are missing out. A decision, of course, to keep them safe from COVID-19. Dr. Kat, what are the effects then to a child's overall well-being sa ating situation ngayon?
Actually, as we mentioned, there's the social emotional impact. So when they go to school, it's not just education that they're gaining from school. They gain friends, the social development is developed, and then they also get to move a lot. So because of the current situation, also the physical activities of the physical activity of children are also affected.
And then we also have to address also the cognitive developmental skills that are being missed out, and these are what children use to think, read, learn, remember, as well as solve problems. Now again, some children may experience delays in developing their intellectual function as well as their adaptive behavior. Dr. Kat, could there be reasons in which the circumstances of the pandemic can affect this area naman of a child's development?
Yeah, because when they go out, like what Ms. Susie said, it's not just the specific skills like talking that they get to see. When they get to play, they also get to develop fine motor skills when they hold on the toys. Since right now they just see their classmates through the screen, so they don't get to develop the fine motor skills. And also, there's a lot of things that could arise from a simple play between a child. So not just the gross motor, because they get to move, they get to touch things, also the communication to develop.
When we return, we'll talk about the risk factors of developmental delays in children during the pandemic. We're together in health. This is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
RPN DXDX General Santos.
Ikaw ba nagapangita og customizing cake sa inyong matag okasyon? Para sa mga katawhan sa glan og jazz, Jose Abad Santos, ani ana ang maayong balita og solusyon sa imong gipangita.
Edsoy's Cake Shop.
Edsoy's Cake Shop. Ang Edsoy's Cake Shop naga-offer kaninyo og birthday customizing cake, wedding customizing cake, anniversary customizing cake, ug uban pa. Para sa dugang impormasyon, pwede usab kamo mo follow sa ilang Facebook page, Edsoy's Cake Shop, located at Purukpangi, Barangay Big Margos, Glan, Sarangani Province.
Hirap ka ba sa budget para sa party or any occasions? Nandito na ang Garden Heaven Suites. Avail na sa kanilang exclusive venue with rooms, swimming pool, food and decors sa abot kayang halaga. Ang Garden Heaven Suites ay matatagpuan sa Purok 15, Block 7, Barangay Lagaw, General Santos City. Pwede silang tawagan sa cellphone number 0917-8905-701. Look for Miss Cheryl.
Promo alert! Promo alert!
Promo for as low as 23,000 pesos. Meron ka ng exclusive venue, backdrop decor, table set, catering for 50 packs, 4 rooms with aircon, TV closet, sounds and lights, and other freebies. Kaya tawag na sa 0917-8905-701. Huwag kalimutan, Garden Heaven Suites. Bored ka na ba sa mga tourist spot na palagi mo nalang pinupuntahan, wala nang bago? Andito na ang North Deck Sinawal Restaurant and Tiki Bar, the newest tourist spot in Jensan. Gusto nyo magkape, may putumaya, boko halo, sikwate, and of course, ang kanilang masasarap na pagkain sa kanilang restaurant, katulad ng Filipino International Cuisines. At marami pang pagpipilian na tsakswak sa inyong lasa at sa bulsay amot kaya. Busog ka na sa masarap na pagkain, busog ka pa sa magandang tanawin. Huwag kaligtaan ang kanilang live hito grilled or deep fried. Of course, halal foods po ito. Sila ay bukas mula alas 4 ng umaga hanggang alas 8 ng gabi. Kaya huwag niyo kalimutan, North Deck Sinawal Restaurant and Tiki Bar. Sila ay matatagpuan sa Purok Soriano Diversion Road, Barangay Sinawal, General Santos City. O maaaring tumawag sa kanilang cellphone number 0935-7454-329. Hanapin lamang si Fernan Bornales. North Deck Sinawal Restaurant and Tiki Bar, the newest tourist spot in Jensen.
DXDX General Santos.
COVID-19 has affected children in many ways, directly as well as indirectly. Now, beyond the risk of getting sick, their emotional, social, and mental well-being have been impacted by the pandemic. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We are your connection to healthcare. Now, depending on your children's age group, their daily habits may have changed due to staying indoors during the pandemic. Children aged 0 to 5 may be at risk of lacking the developmental milestones and social skills as a result of their limited interaction with other children. Ma'am Susie, how can parents make up for this given the limited exposure to others?
They could probably use themselves as the parents to be the peers of their children, and they could make pretend tasks like playing, for example, mimicking the games that we usually play outdoors. For example, hide and seek. You can do that in the house. Or why don't we go with the Philippine games like yung mga tumbang preso, yung mga ganon, or simple bowling games that would enhance or provide opportunities for them to do turn-taking tasks.
Now, Dr. Kat, is there an age group na most at risk in this current pandemic situation that we are in? Most at risk developmental-wise? Because we have 0 to 5, 6 to 12, 13 to 17. Is there an age group na most vulnerable dito?
I think since the rapid brain development happens at 0 to 5 years old. So I think they're the ones who are most at risk because of this pandemic.
Okay. So kung 0 to 5 ang most at risk dito, are there any red flags that you could share with us para sa mga parents ng mga merong 0 to 5 years old? Anong mga red flags that may pinpoint to a developmental delay?
So one red flag, so I think that's the easiest that the parents would get from this. So if they don't get to walk by 18 months, so they have to seek consultation at 1. So earlier milestones would be difficulty of holding their head. So they should have a good head control by 3 months. They should be able to sit independently by 10 months. And then they should stand on one leg by 3 years, because that we're looking at the balance. And then, so that adaptive domain, actually adaptive or the self-help, that's the usual thing that Filipinos are kinda late because we usually feed them, we usually dress them up. So I think the pandemic would be the best time to help the children eat on their own. So by 3 years, they should be eating on their own. And then they should start dressing and undressing on their own. And then for school-age children, the red flags would be slow to remember facts, slow to learn new skills, or relies heavily on memorization, because if they rely heavily on memorization, they might be having comprehension concerns, so they won't understand what is asked, and poor coordination or unaware of physical surroundings.
Okay. So marami talagang red flags na dapat ma-watch out yung mga
Yes.
parents. Ano? Now, speaking of school-age kids, because schools have been completely closed for more than a year now due to the pandemic. Now, Ma'am Suzy, what are some of the more common problems that we are seeing among children given itong online learning situation natin?
All right, the most common that I have seen so far, and has been reported by some of the clients that I'm handling, is their attention span. How could they focus and how could they hold on longer to the classes? For example, even if you say the class would run for 1 hour, in person or in the classroom, it's okay because you get to interact with the teacher or you get to move a little. But with online classes, you are glued in your seats and you have to pay attention to the teacher. But knowing that you're looking at the screen with so many windows, you get distracted with so much movement on the other windows. So that's one of the problems. And another thing is that when a kid is not able to process well, it is somehow perceived as a problem already because they couldn't pay attention, they couldn't focus longer. But we have to recognize that there are some kids who would need movement, who would need to move a little just to process some of the things. That's why most of them are having a hard time, or sometimes the parents are complaining that my child cannot finish this task, or my child cannot stay longer. But for some schools anyway, I've learned that they have allowed some allowances for the kids. Like they could turn off the video, and then if they need to move to stand up a little while still listening, it's allowed for as long as the child is still paying attention to the teacher in class.
Coming up, we'll discuss how to help your child continue the development milestones and learnings they need for their future. So stay with us. Your health is our mission. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
RPN DXDX General Santos.
Gusto mo bang kumita gamit ang iyong cellphone, tablet at laptop sang sulok ka man ng mundo? Do you want to be part of an online business company that is ISO certified and has all the solid legal certificates from the Department of Trade and Industries, Securities and Exchange Commission? Not only that, we also have hundreds of offices worldwide: Hong Kong, Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, Nigeria, Gabon, and USA, and has thousands of distributors all over the world. We were also featured on different TV segments such as Go Negosyo, Ascenso Pinoy, CNN Philippines, PTV4, Jessica Soho, and Rated Gate.
Sa mga minamahal naming mga member, consumer owners, maaari din pong magbayad ng Socoteco 2 Power Bills sa mga sumusunod na payment channels. Para sa full payment ng past due at current accounts, maaaring magbayad sa SM Mall of Jensen, Save More Kalumpang at Save More Purok Malakas. At para naman sa full payment bago ang due date, maaaring magbayad sa M. Luwilier, Palawan, RD Pawn Shops at Socoteco 2 Accredited Banks. Isang paalala mula sa Socoteco 2.
Mga mga momshies! Gusto mo bang gumanda ngunit di sapat ang iyong budget? Halina't bumisita na sa Sally Beauty Salon. Sa Sally Beauty Salon, meron silang pedicure, manicure, rebonding, hair color, foot spa, haircut at iba pa. Located at Facing Jensen City Public Market. For reservations, tumawag lang sa mga numerong 0908-761-3471 at 0975-517-8814. Tayo na sa Sally Beauty Salon.
I'm a fireball. DXDX General Santos.
Despite the lockdown, there are still ways to achieve your children's developmental milestones. This is especially important for children from ages 0 to 5. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're your connection to healthcare. Serve and return is like a game of tennis between a child and a caregiver. Now, the child serves by reaching out for attention, such as babbling, gesturing, or making faces. Then the caregiver returns the serve with attention. Ma'am Susie, why is this important for a child's development?
Because that would ensure that there is communication going on. Because we do not, like in our community, we don't just rely on somebody dictating something to us. So the back and forth, or sabihin natin, it's like a tennis, diba? The back and forth exchange of ideas, of information, makes communication fruitful.
Dr. Kat, how can this practice of serve and return be done through everyday simple activities?
First, it's important that the parents would know what this serve and turn means. So it actually goes through steps. First, you have to notice the serve and share the child's attention. For example, if you notice the child is looking at a toy, you have to return the serve by supporting and encouraging, like, are you looking at your mobile? Is it nice? Is it colorful? And then give it a name. So if the child is looking at the mobile, so you can name the animals in the mobile, and then take turns and wait. So you have to wait for the response, and then the interaction will go on, and then practice the beginnings and endings of each serve and turn.
Before the pandemic, parents have been trying to get their children away from their devices, their gadgets. But now experts are saying that they have to embrace this technology naman. Ma'am Susie, how do we reconcile this? How can parents realize the importance right now of gadgets, but at the same time also realize the importance of investing time in their kids' development?
You use gadget for a limited time. The extra gadget time, aside from the online classes that the child has to undergo. So, for example, if the child has spent like an hour online in the morning, maybe you can allot time for gadget use just for 30 minutes in the afternoon. But still, it would be better if you sit beside your child, you play a game that would still encourage the turn-taking, as what we have been talking about, because that's a very important one, the social communication part of development.
Now, I'd like to touch on how to cope with a child's mental stress during this pandemic situation, because the ongoing stress, the fear, the uncertainty of this pandemic has affected all of us. But many children and teens have an especially hard time coping emotionally. Now, let's first discuss some of the signs of stress among children during this period. Dr. Kat, how can parents help their children? How can they first spot na meron na silang problema emotionally because of stress, and how can they help their children deal with these?
How to spot it? You have to check the child's behavior. If there are changes in the behavior, like if the child become less talkative or would want to play on their own or go to their room more often. So you'll have to talk to the child. Why is he doing that? And then second, if there are changes in the eating habits, some of the children don't want to eat anymore when they are so sad, or they want to eat more. So you have to check that as well, and the sleeping habit. So if they are too sad, sometimes they're having difficulties in sleeping.
We're glad you could join us on Med Talk Health Talk. Thank you very much, neurodevelopmental pediatrician Dr. Catherine Baltazar Braganza and speech-language pathologist Ms. Suzalyn Pascual. While COVID-19 is sparing our children from getting sick, it's not being so kind on them when it comes to their developmental skills. Still, there's a lot of ways to encourage our children's growth during this pandemic. In fact, the amount of family time we have now is a good place to start. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you.
RPN DXDX General Santos.